The number one complaint I got about version 1 of this course was the fact that students had to restart the app from the terminal every time they wanted to see the changes they just made inside of their text editor. Luckily, there is a better way to do things. In this video, we're going to take a look at how we can automatically restart our app as we make changes to the file. That means if I change Andrew to Mike and save it, it would automatically restart over in the terminal. Now, to do this, we have to install a command line utility, and we're going to do this using npm. To get started, we're going to go to Google Chrome and head over to npmjs.com, just like we did previously. And the module we're looking for is called Nodemon. Nodemon is going to be responsible for watching our app for changes and restarting the app when those changes occur. Right here, we can view the docs for Nodemon as well as various things like current version numbers, etc. You can also see it's a really popular module with over 30,000 downloads a day. Now, this module is a little different than the one we used in the last video, Lodash. Lodash got installed and added into our project's package.json file right here. That means it went into our Node modules folder, and we were able to require it in our app.js file. Nodemon, however, works a little differently. It's a command line utility that gets executed from the terminal. It's going to be a completely new way of starting our application. And to install modules to be run from the command line, we have to tweak the install command that we used in the last video. For now, we can start off much the same way though. We're going to use npm install, just like we did in the last video. We're going to type the name, just like we did in the last video. But instead of using the save flag, what we're going to do is use the G flag, which is short for global. This installs Nodemon as a global utility on your machine, which means it's not going to get added to your specific project and you're never going to require Nodemon. Instead, you're going to be running the Nodemon command from the terminal. When we install this command, it's going to go off to npm, fetch all of the code that comes with Nodemon, and it's going to add it into the installation where Node and npm live on your machine, outside of the project you're working on. This command could be executed from anywhere in your machine. It does not need to be executed from the project folder, since it doesn't actually update the project at all. With this in place, though, we now have a brand new command on our machine, Nodemon. Nodemon is going to get executed just like Node did, where we type the command and then we type the file we want to start. In our case, app.js is the root of our project. When you run it, you're going to see a few things. We're going to see a combination of our app's output along with Nodemon logs that show you what's happening. Here you can see the version Nodemod's using, the files it's watching, and the command it actually ran. Now at this point, it's waiting for more changes. It already ran through the entire app, and it's just going to sit here. It's going to keep running until another change happens or until you shut it down. Inside of Atom, that means we can go ahead and make a few changes to our app. Let's get started by changing Andrew to Mike, and then we're going to go ahead and remove everything else from the array, leaving it just like this. Now I'm going to be saving the file, but pay attention to what happens in the terminal. Right here, you can see the app automatically restarted, and within a split second, the new output is shown to the screen. You can see we now have our array with one item, a string Mike. And this is the real power of Nodemon. You can create your applications, and they will automatically restart over inside of the terminal, which is super useful. It's going to save you a ton of time and a ton of headaches. You won't have to switch back and forth every time you make a small tweak. This also prevents a ton of errors, where you are running a web server, you make a change and you forget to restart that web server. You might think your change didn't work as expected because the app is not working as expected, but in reality, you just never restarted the app. For the most part, we are going to be using Nodemon throughout the course since it's super useful. It's only used for development purposes, which is exactly what we're doing on our local machine. Later on in the course, when we deploy our Node apps to a real web server, we won't be using Nodemon, but Nodemon is awesome for local development because it makes it that much easier. That is it for this video. Now it's time to start exploring how we can get input from the user to create our Notes application. That's going to be the topic of the next few videos. I am super excited to get started. Before we do get started, we're going to take a quick second to clean up a lot of the code we've already written. I'm going to remove all of the commented out code down below, and up above where we have FS, OS, and Lodash, I'm going to simply remove OS since we're not going to be using it throughout the project. I'm also going to be adding a space between the third-party and Node modules and the files I've written. I find this to be a good syntax that makes it a lot easier to quickly scan for either third-party / Node modules and modules that I've created and required down below. Next up, over in Notes, we're going to go ahead and remove the add function. This was only added for demonstration purposes, and we can go ahead and save both of these files, and Nodemon is automatically going to restart. Last but not least, we can remove that greetings.txt file. That was used to demonstrate how the FS module works, and since we already know how it works, we can go ahead and wipe that file. And last but not least, we can always shut down Nodemon using Control-C. Now we're back at the regular terminal. And with this in place, we are done. It's time to move on, figuring out how we can get input from the user, because that's how users are going to be able to create notes, remove notes, and fetch their notes. That is all coming up in the next several videos, so stay tuned. I will see you then.